Today I will be talking about the Roanoke colony. The Roanoke colony is also known as the Lost Colony. It was established in 1585 on Roanoke Island in what is today's Dare County in North Carolina. It was a late 16th attempt for Queen Elizabeth I to establish permanent English residence on North America. The colony was founded by Sir Walter Raleigh. I don't know how to pronounce that. We're gonna say Raleigh, he had 7 years to establish the settlement before losing colonization rights. The first expedition was led by Philip Amadas and Arthur Barlow. They made contact with the local, I'm sorry if I say this wrong, but the local Croatoan and Croatoan tribes. This was just to establish the place and to start it. The second expedition was led by Grenville, and 5 ships left Plymouth on April 9th, 1585. While they were going to the island, a storm ended up separating all the ships. This caused damage to some of the ships, as well as most of the ships to lose supplies and food and all of that. So they did not have as much stuff as they needed when they finally got to the island. They were missing a lot of things. The very first trip there established ties with the natives that lived there, and the second trip, everyone who got there, they explored the area, they explored along the coast and the islands, and they basically destroyed the relationship that they had with Native Americans. The village of Soku, that village, it accused the explorers for stealing from them, and I think the English retaliated a little much, but so the natives there accused them of stealing the English. So the English decided that the way to solve this issue was to burn down the tribe, like burn down their little village, just burn it and pillage it. I feel like they could have handled that a little better. In April 1585, Grenville, I really hope I'm saying these names right, but Grenville left the island to get more people and stuff, but he left over 100 people behind to form a settlement. They were able to construct a small fort, and then they explored like the surrounding area more. Due to the attacks from the natives and the lack of supplies and the more people that were supposed to be coming, the people who were on the island that were left behind were forced to leave the island. They, even though most of those people left, they still left a small group on the island to maintain English presence. A second attempt was made by John White. He had 150 men with him. They were originally supposed to establish a new colony at Chesapeake Bay, but instead they ended up staying at Roanoke Island, because when they were on their way to Chesapeake Bay, they were supposed to stop at Roanoke Island and pick up the people that were left there. And when they showed up at the island, there was no trace of anyone except for one skeleton. Just one skeleton. So they were told that they had to stay at the island now to try to establish a new colony. Luckily, White was able to establish good connections with the Croatoan tribe, but the other tribes that they tried to rekindle a new healthy relationship with they couldn't get rid of the hostile ties with the other tribes. So the people that John White came with, so 150 men and women and children, they were under attack a lot, so they kept getting attacked and they were running short on supplies, so they asked John White to go back to England and get more supplies and more people and more food and come back. It didn't end that way. So John White left behind 115 colonists, and this included his own daughter and his own granddaughter, and his granddaughter was actually the first English child to be born in the colonies. That's pretty cool. John White was not able to return for another 3 years to Roanoke. When he showed up to England, they were in the middle, I think they were just starting, or they're in the middle of a war with Spain. So a lot of the ships that he would have needed to go back to Roanoke were in use. Also, the weather was not allowing him to safely travel back. Then he finally was able to get some ships, and he starts going. And those ships end up getting attacked and basically pirated by the Spanish. So they took all the supplies off. So White had to turn around and go back to England because he no longer had any supplies, which, what was the point of going back to Roanoke if he didn't have any of the stuff, like the whole reason why he left in the first place. But after 3 years, on August 18th, 1590, he was finally able to make it back to the island. He was on a boat that was going off for a totally different thing. He had them stop at the island just so they could pick up the people on the way back to England. They get there and there's no one there, as I'm sure you already know. But the whole colony was gone. There was no trace of them. The only sign that they were there was the word Croatoan, which was carved into a post, and CRO, which was carved into a tree. They thought, well, maybe they're at the Croatoan island with the Croatoan tribe. So 2 attempts were made to reach this island, both of which failed because of bad weather. And these ships, John White, he wasn't like the boss or the owner of them, so they were privately owned. So the ships he was on would not keep going because of the storm. And then they ended up having to turn around and go back to England, and they never made it to the island. So there are several theories I'm going to go over about what could have happened to the colony of Roanoke. First theory is that the colonists were absorbed into other native tribes, and it could have been absorbed through, be like friends, or it could have been used as slaves. And Croatoan, as I've mentioned, was the name of another tribe that had good standing with these colonists. And it was another island down further along the coast. So it's theorized maybe the colonists, after 3 years of not getting any more people and supplies, they ended up moving in with this Croatoan tribe. But as I mentioned, they were not able to make it to the island to check. But archaeologists have found artifacts that have supported the English being with the tribe, such as a gold singlet ring, a writing slate that still had some writing on it, and a hilt of an English sword, which would have only have been to an Englishman of high standing. There's also been claims from other people who have seen other native tribes that they had 2-story stone houses that supposedly were taught to them by the colonists, like taught how to make them by the colonists. But the colonists could have also met a whole other tribe that was not friendly at all, and they could have been used as slaves. You know, there's 2 sides to that coin, so they could have met good native people or not so friendly native people. The second theory is that the colonists were a victim of cannibalism, and this could have been another tribe coming in and using them, eating them, or it could have been them turning on each other and eating each other because of lack of food or something. And to explain not finding any bones or anything, some cultures, they use the bones, they grind up the bones and use them as healing remedies, so that could explain why there's nothing left The third theory could that they were murdered by Spanish troops, or they were driven mad by an infectious disease. There's also the theory that they were massacred by Chief Powhatan. I'm really bad at words, guys. This is John Smith. He's the Jamestown colony founder of 1607. I think you know him, the whole Pocahontas John Smith thing. But he claimed that the native chief confessed that he murdered the Roanoke colony, and that he supposedly showed him items from the colonists. The sixth theory is from the natives. They believe that there's a spirit that was on that island, like the island had a spirit, that when it was anchored could turn you into an animal, trees, or rocks. So they think that the colonists did something, such as not treating the natives nicely, but the colonists did something that angered the spirit, and that the colonists were there. They're still there. They've always been there. They're just not people anymore. They're the trees or the rocks, the animals that are on that island. And the last theory I'm going to talk about is zombies. This kind of plays into the cannibalism aspect. Could have been the only case of a zombie outbreak, and since it was on an island, it was contained to that island, and that the zombies eventually, I guess you'd say, died out, even though they're already dead. So, but that's just theory. Those are just theories, but now I kind of want to talk about the word Croatoan. This is not the only time that word has popped up. I mean, it's the tribe name, but it's also popped up a lot in history. For instance, it was allegedly Edgar Allan Poe's last words that he spoke, like, on his deathbed. He supposedly, like, whispered Croatoan. And this was right after he disappeared for, I could not figure out how long he disappeared. I'm just gonna say, like, a few days. He disappeared, and when he was found, he was, like, delirious and wandering around the streets and, like, babbling about stuff that doesn't really make sense. And he ended up on his deathbed, and the last word he said was Croatoan. The word was also found scribbled in Amelia Earhart's journal after she vanished. Also, a horror author, Ambrose Bierce, he vanished in 1913, and supposedly the last bed he was sleeping in had the word Croatoan carved into its post. As well as the stagecoach robber Black Bart supposedly etched this word into the walls of his prison cell right before he vanished. He was never seen again. Croatoan was also written on the very last page of the logbook for the ship Carroll A. Deering, which in 1921 was found run aground, and none of its crew was on it. It was completely empty. That's all I have on the Roanoke colony. As I said, we still don't know exactly what happened. I think it's probably most likely that they assimilated with another tribe, either through slavery or, like, becoming part of the tribe. So I think that's the most possible, but there's, whatever. If you have any theories that I did not mention, comment them below, because I would love to see any theories that you have. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Those are nice. And if you want to see more content, subscribe. No pressure though. You don't have to, but it would be nice if you did. Comment any videos you want me to do down below. That's all I really have. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a lovely day. Why am I so close to the camera? Okay, today, the Roanoke colony is also known as the lost, and what is today's dear country? Wrong, but the local Croatoans that they had with the Native Americans, I'm sorry. I heard Indians is a really offensive term, so I'm going to be trying to call them Native Americans. The village of Soku. I'll put it at the bottom of the screen. I'll put it right here. Chesapeake Bay. Chesapeake with something to do with the Caribbean or something. And he disappeared. It just said for a spell, and I don't know how long a spell is, so I'm just gonna say like a few days. His trial, I'm pretty sure it's being released or something, but he